Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, women and men of all ages, from whatever country you are watching the Ango show live, we are live. My name is Ango. Holy shit! Have I been hacked?
Yeah, you have.
You hacked my account, bro? What are you doing here?
I did. I had to come back. The way that it ended on Friday, you were laughing. You were doing all of those things. I want to tell everybody. I want to give my apologies for absolutely nothing. All of you have been worked. It is that simple. Welcome to pro wrestling, everybody. You guys have been worked. Me and Ango planned this out a long time ago, and you guys fell for it.
Oh, dude. It was so funny. All right, guys. So it was a joke. Let's just get this over with because I know some people are mentioning it. They're asking questions. People went to Billy's stream on Friday when he was doing the watch along and got a lot of tweets, got a lot of messages. For some reason, everybody thought it was real. And what we're talking about is Billy walking out on the stream.
Yes.
Basically, this is what happened. For those who don't know, we were making fun of professional wrestling fans who take wrestling too serious. Me and Billy know each other in real life. That's the
very
first
good
thing.
Friends outside of this.
We're good friends outside of this, for sure. Me and Billy have made music together. Me and Billy have streamed together, and we actually know each other. So Billy had this idea for a long time of like, hey man, I just kind of want to like storm off on your show and just go heel as a joke, just to like pop ourselves for it. And it was really funny because when me and Billy originally did it, honestly, we didn't expect the response that we got. I really don't think we expected that, which was funny.
No, we didn't.
But the truth is this. We were messing around. Obviously, you guys know me. I'm not a dickhead. And you guys know Billy, and he's not a dickhead. And
from it, both of us.
the last bro, you could literally see that I was holding in my laughs. But and Billy was literally hitting his vape off screen to hide his laughs. So
people thought that you were laughing at me.
Yeah. Basically, my point that I'm making is Billy is actually on the show, and Billy is not mad, and I'm not mad.
No, but I do want to say one more thing before we move on, because it is very simple. I want the viewers and everybody who is here to know that I am here to challenge Ango. I'm not here to just agree with everything that he is saying. I'm here to show you guys that it is okay to disagree, but there is a certain way to go about it. There is a real life way to disagree with somebody, and you can have very, very good conversation. Either A, coming to a conclusion, or B, just agreeing to disagree. Both options are okay. You don't necessarily have to, belittle somebody or hate them just because you disagree. It's naturally okay. So that's just one thing that I wanted to pinpoint, that yes, it was a work, but there is some realness to it. And it is that you guys, at the end of the day, it is okay to disagree with one another. You don't have to hate somebody. You don't have to deprive them of whatever sanity they have. Just be okay with one another. It's pro wrestling. Don't take it too serious.
And that's really the purpose of all of it. And today, honestly, is a very interesting discussion. And that's why I want to maybe the timing was bad because I don't know if me and Billy will actually agree with anything today. But
right.
It was funny because on Thursday when we streamed, we were kind of amping it up a little bit. And then Friday happens. And like I said, I was just shocked how many people actually took it serious. But you guys just need to know that we genuinely love this YouTube stuff. We genuinely love wrestling. And me and Billy, by the way, have talked more off air about wrestling than on air. And that was actually what made me that was the thing that actually made me tell Billy, hey dude, I know you're doing the music thing and that's cool and I don't want to take you away from your passions, but I think you would be good at this YouTube stuff. I would love for you to join me on the Ango show. And then it was funny because for years, we kind of did some stuff here and there. Billy kind of did some stuff here and there. But February of this year, we decided, hey, let's really do this 12 p.m. time slot. So I just wanted to make that really clear before we jump into a very hectic show because holy shit, I did not expect that reaction. And I do apologize for people who genuinely took it to heart.
But a big apology to you guys.
But at the end of the day,
supposed to be taken like that.
But at the end of the day, it was a work. Me and Billy don't hate each other
at all.
And I just want to make it also very clear for those who are watching. At the end of the day, man, you guys are watching content on YouTube. You guys are, you guys interact with us. have a little bit of faith in who we are as people, because we are the most authentic personalities on this show, like on this platform. Like, just keep that in mind. And I do want to leave a shout out to a couple super chats. I don't know if I'm able to pull them up on screen.
Super chatted $10. Hi, Billy and
yes, okay. Yeah, so Real Take Wrestling was first. Give me 1 second. Oh god. This is a long super chat. We got a couple super chats. Sorry, it was just interrupting me. So yeah, Real Take Wrestling dropped to $4.99. He says, was in Philly for this one, guys, and that was an insane show in the best way. Right up until that WWE ass ending. When you say WWE ass ending, I hope you're talking about the worst of WWE, not the good stuff, because WWE, yeah. Listen, I have so much to say about this. I think a lot of people are genuinely going to be shocked about what I do have to say about AEW Dynasty. I can imagine, though, I will say this, as far as Dynasty goes in terms of in-ring and the Philly crowd, I give a lot of props to the Philly crowd, because I do think literally up until the ending, the crowd was very invested in the show. And the crowd was great. I give them a lot of props there, but we'll talk. We'll have a conversation about this. Omer also dropped a follow-up super chat to that, by the way, really quick. He said, the $1.99, not falling for it. Meltzer told me there was heat. Well, buddy, Meltzer doesn't know shit about shit, so
you definitely don't know shit about the Ango show, baby.
You know, it was so funny too. There was so many people who I don't think me and Billy actually anticipated this, but me and Billy really didn't script how we were going to do it. I was just trying to get him agitated to the point where he would freak out, and it took a while because we kept getting interrupted by super chats too, so I couldn't keep going. But it was funny how many people reached out to Billy and was making sure he was good. And I was the heel. Billy is the one who turned heel, but I was the one who was technically heel. I was the villain.
He was the bad guy. So that really goes to show you what pro wrestling really is you ended up being the bad guy because you laughed at me.
Yeah.
And people took it as oh man, this guy is laughing at this guy and he's just trying to get worse.
Oh, and then so funny.
Talking about doing it off screen. We had this conversation off camera.
Ain't that some shit, bro? Shout out to Omer. Yeah, sorry, Billy. Shout out to Omer. Stop it, emotional. Just kidding.
Yeah, Omer tweeted something the other day. He was like, "That's what you want us to believe, brother."
Yeah. But it was funny too because Billy went live. You went live on Friday, and then you were talking about it. And then you were keeping it up. You were kind of keeping up the gimmick, but telling everybody it was at work. It's hold on, what kind of character is this?
No, that
was AEW level of bad. That was like an AEW script, bro. What you did
I'm
Friday.
Playing into it, telling them it's a work.
Yeah.
I'm oh no, this guy Ango sucks, but he's actually a really great guy.
Yeah. Shout out to Billy, bro. Shout out to Billy for actually doing it and being really good. I sort of got this is my last comment I'm going to make about it because I do want to move on. We got more super chats and more stuff to do.
Yes.
But dude, it was so funny. I will never forget this. When me and you were talking about this, there was people that have hit me up privately and they were like, "Bro, what happened?" And I just respond to them I was just very brutally honest with them. I was like, "Oh, it's a work. We were just messing around." The funniest thing is how many people literally told me they're like, "Bro, Billy's a fucking great actor." And I swear to God, I'm not gonna lie. I swear to God, watching it back, I love I clipped it and I use it on Twitter now for the memes and shit because you have officially reached meme status. But it's starting to agitate me, bro. I don't know how you did that shit with a straight face. I do not know.
I genuinely, I think right before that, I went and hit my vape off to the side of the camera so YouTube wouldn't see me. But right before that, I get straight face because I knew we were getting to a point where it's all right, I can start boosting this up a little bit. But yeah, man, I mean, obviously not to dig any deeper. This, like I said, we both said, this is going to be the last thing that we make because we do got to move on.
Yeah.
But the one thing I will say is I have a lot of experience from making music and shooting music videos that I'm obviously not the greatest actor under the sun, but there is a level of understanding seriousness and when to become serious.
Yeah.
No, that's what I figured out.
You killed it. I swear to God, I'm telling you right now. I thought, dude, there was a lot of people that are like, "Wait, that was a work?" I'm like, "Yeah." People were really impressed by your acting skills, which
I'm seeing Oscar-worthy stuff.
Dude, it was good. I sort of got it. It looked, and I think that's why, because of how good it was, I think that's why people took it so for real. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I just thought it was funny. Yes, we wasted 15 minutes talking about this, but just know that Billy Davis, aka Billy TKO, aka Silly Billy, it's starting to agitate me, is literally becoming far greater.
One of these shirts, I'm gonna have it starting to agitate me shirt. So I'm gonna put.
I swear I'll buy it.
Boom, there you go.
It's just becoming a lot more entertaining than what I saw last night at Dynasty. Ooh! I'm kidding.
Look at this guy with the segues, dude.
I'm kidding. It was a good segue. But I did tell people, I'm not going to shit on AEW as much as people think I actually will. So I do ask, guys, bring the super chats, bring the fire in the chat. This is going to be a great conversation. I swear to God, I promise you guys, I think we're going to have some really good analysis here. And that's why I titled the video, Was It Really That Bad? And there's a purpose for that. We did get a super chat from Double D for $10, and I want to read this. Hi, Billy and Ango. Fuck AEW. Wasted my night with that dog feces of a pay-per-view. Now we are going to get a dog feces from Young Bucks to waste more of our time. This company is garbage, hands down. Now, the reality is, really quick before I continue. Shout out to Robert Kilpatrick in the chat. My boy Robert. He just told a really good story of meeting me when he came to Detroit. And I just want to say, Robert, I still remember you, buddy. And that's why we go back and forth on DMs. Just little fun nod to a great story.
Shout out Robert.
That day will always shock me. That will always be a surprising day. So shout out to Robert. You made me feel amazing that day. Let's talk about AEW Dynasty. I think Double D is kicking us off in the right direction. I think the overwhelming consensus from wrestling fans last night was that AEW, I think AEW really drove people away last night.
Mm-hmm.
I think last night was, I think one of the big things, Billy, and you could kind of like chime in here and let me know. I think a lot of times when there is outrage about AEW, from a company perspective, we saw it with like Cody leaving or Punk getting fired, then airing the footage. You don't hear too much of backlash coming from a creative standpoint. You might have your people who are like, oh, this is not good. But the backlash that we are seeing yesterday, and agree, disagree, you let me know. But I think this backlash is worse than the Cody losing at Roman WrestleMania 39 backlash. And it's for a very specific reason, but would you agree with that sentiment?
Yeah, I actually would. I would fully agree with that sentiment. I think last night, the way that it ended, and I think just the capitalization of it was honestly, I mean, I could come on here and I could yell at the camera and, no, blah, 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 this happened, this sucked. No, like, it genuinely, like, I call me wrong for this. I don't know. But I genuinely have like the feeling of like just kind of tired, right? You know, especially somebody who vocally has, tried to reinstate that feeling for myself for AEW. And obviously you guys heard it here. The things I was saying was not a lie. You know what I mean? Coming on and defending Swerve the way that I did, I really felt strongly about Swerve Strickland in this position, right? That is something that I genuinely felt strong about. And to ultimately get let down. And then I guess the thing about it is after like everything takes place, right? After the main event takes place, you now start to see like how people would book it, right? And a lot of people are like, oh, the Young Bucks versus Hangman and Swerve. That was the furthest from where my head was at. Yeah. Like that never crossed my mind. I don't even think it even crossed yours. I don't think it crossed anybody's, to be quite honest. And the fact that was what they came up with, and because don't get me wrong, there are people defending this. It's not just like a shit show everywhere. Yeah. No, people are truly trying to defend this, and that's their defense mechanism. And I think that is just it's almost coward-like, right? Because you're coming out and defending something, and deep down you know it was bad too. The problem is you refuse to criticize. And again, I still appreciate AEW. I love AEW for the things that they've done, but at the end of the day, they have to be open to criticism. And this is one of those circumstances where just defending them like this, it's like it's just horrible. I mean, I can give you every analogy under the sun. Just overall, very overwhelming ending. I think Omer said it earlier, the very WWE ending of 2019, like we agreed. Just I don't know, man. I don't know what to say.
I gotta say, overall, the pay-per-view, great matches, right? Without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll talk more subjectively about the FTR heel turn.
Yes, because it wasn't horrible all the way through and through. It was not.
I think the problem is, and this is where I really have a hard time even talking about this, because we talked about it Friday, we've talked about it Thursday and Wednesday. We talk about it often, right? But I said Swerve is not that guy. He's not that guy. He has not been built up as that babyface that could save AEW. And I feel like what we saw last night was, it really felt, in my opinion, and I hate saying this, but it really felt like AEW has noticed that Swerve was not that guy, and they're pivoting Swerve away from this. And that was their way to do it. Because of course, I'm not stupid. I see the people talking about Hangman and Swerve tag teaming and stuff like that, right? Young Bucks versus Swerve and Hangman, or whatever it may be. I don't know. But let's just make one thing clear, okay? And this is where I just want to be incredibly honest. When I said Swerve is not that guy, Billy, it's because they didn't position him through booking having some sort of huge babyface chase. But what did I tell you Friday? I said, at this point, I just want him to win because I need the Death Rider storyline to die. Right?
Yeah, which we all agreed on.
Okay, so now this is where I get frustrated. You haven't spent a whole bunch of time building up a super babyface to go and save the company from this disaster. The one guy who is over, who is a safe choice, was just passed through. Now it looks like you're pivoting away from this because clearly Jon Moxley will need another opponent.
For sure.
This all stems from AEW is doubling down on a bad storyline. That's what's happened here. That is what's happened here. They are doubling down on a bad storyline. And because of that, I was willing to say, hey, if you don't double down on the storyline and Swerve wins, it doesn't make the most sense. I wouldn't be the most creatively satisfied, but I would be happy because that's how bad the Death Riders thing is.
Dwayne Jackson
Give me a
super
second.
chatted $20. Ango, honestly, this is going to unpopular thing to say, but he was banking on Darby Allin to come back. Nobody wants to Darby as world champion, but I think that's the direction they're going.
There's a couple more super chats I will have to get through, but shout out to Dwayne Jackson and DJ for those super chats. I'll get to those in a moment. The problem is the Death Rider storyline is so bad that if they would have... Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, my bad. I think it said I was muted in OBS. Okay. The Death Rider storyline in AEW was so bad that it got to the point where people were like, hey, Swerve should just win. They should just kind of end this at Dynasty, right? The problem is they didn't do that, and now they're doubling down on this faction. They're doubling down on Jon Moxley as a champion. So the solution to this long term, it's very hard to figure out. When you compare this to Roman beating Cody at WrestleMania 39, everybody at least saw the vision of Cody's being built up, he's facing adversity, he's going to eventually get the win. A lot of people agreed with that. AEW has not set somebody up for that level of success chasing Jon Moxley. So people wanted this storyline to end, and Swerve Strickland was your safe bet. They chose not to do that. They had the Young Bucks come out. They did this entire ordeal. Basically, what this has led to is Tony Khan shitting on his fan base. And then Tony Khan has the balls to go to a press conference and say that he's listening to fan feedback and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. I felt a certain type of way about that one.
But how do you say you're listening to fan feedback when this entire time the fan feedback has been, hey, this is not a good storyline? And listen, it's one thing to act like it's not, you're listening to fan feedback, or maybe some feedback isn't genuine, but even the sickos are coming out and they're in disgust. That's not the impression that you want to make. If your most hardcore audience, which by the way, I've told you 5 years ago, going to the hardcore fans, they will eventually turn on you. This is that.
Absolutely. I will never joke about Japanese fetish.
Absolutely.
It was the absolute drizzling shits. The Bandito finish was horrendously cringy, as was the main event finish.
You know what I'm looking at, right?
No.
Okay. Well, I know I'll get a reaction out of you when I pull it up.
Okay.
Shout out to Double D for the super chat. DJ dropping another super chat. $4.99. AEW, they have a lot of talents, but they're focusing on Bucks, Moxley, few others that get it. It's boring. Plus, I wish WWE or AEW would hire y'all. Be great commentators. Thanks, man. Yeah, I would love.
Nice.
I would love to work in the business, I guess.
For sure. I think we all would.
I don't know what it would be, but I just want to write TV, I think. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I've always dreamed of for sure, especially coming into like pro wrestling and now being like a voice on YouTube and stuff like that. Not saying I have the biggest voice, everybody calm down. But there is definitely like a dream there of doing something like that. That'd be sick, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So let me ask you though, yeah, for sure. Let me ask you, do you feel like DJ's right about this? They're focusing on Moxley, Bucks, like maybe they're not as focused around other people. What's your kind of belief around that?
Well, I think here's the thing is, yeah, because you can't argue that. You know what I mean? Because you're seeing it. It's literally being heavily focused on television, right? The Young Bucks have been gone, just disappeared out of nowhere. And in fact, the last time that we seen the Bucks, who were they running from? Can you answer that? The Death Riders.
Yeah.
Exactly. So why the hell are they coming out and helping them? No, that's just poor decision making and poor lack of long-term storytelling, right? Yeah. I know we talk about that a lot. And again, kind of going back to the super chat, it's now wanting to just make sure that they are on TV in some type of big capacity. That's all that was. That is all that we witnessed yesterday. And again, I cannot stress this enough for everybody who thinks that I'm coming on here and just bashing on AEW. Go back and watch all the rest of these streams. I have been so vocal about how I have been trying to change my attitude towards this company and really try to enjoy what they are doing. I have really, really tried. And last night, I just felt, again, going back to the 2019 booking of WWE, how did all of you feel? Let me guess. Disrespected? Insulted? Me too.
Yeah. Let me ask you though. I have constantly said that Swerve is not that guy. I keep saying it. Swerve is not that guy. Yeah. He isn't the savior for AEW. Swerve is not that guy. So, with that being said, we'll look at this mess of the Death Rider storyline, Hangman and Swerve out here. Who saves this company from this disaster? Because it's very clear that Tony Khan is doubling down on it, and he thinks this is great content. So who's going to actually be the one to save the company?
Oh, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. It's either going to be Will Ospreay or Darby Allin. I've now accepted that. That's who it's going to be.
Do you think it's too late
for
somebody to save them? After Dynasty last night. After Dynasty.
You're talking in the sense of actually being saved as a company.
Yeah, like at this point, like are those names going to save the I do believe to a certain extent people are watching Dynasty and they saw this decision being made and they're like, okay, I think that's it for me. Like this company just continues to go downhill. Mm-hmm. So who is going to be the one to save them? And clearly the savior will be the one who wins the world championship. So who is that guy?
Right. So like I said, it's either going to be Darby Allin or Will Ospreay. But to answer your question about the natural feeling around AEW and if they can be saved, I genuinely at this point I'm going to be 100% transparent. That may give me some backlash from you guys. No, right at this very moment, in even the idea that it could be Darby Allin or Will Ospreay, it just feels lackluster at this point. Because you have told such a bad story. Because I actually seen something on the internet, and I think it was something along the lines of like, this was the whole point of the Death Rider storyline. It was supposed to make you feel like this, for ultimately when the person does come to save them, it's like this big moment that everybody loves, right?
Yeah.
The problem with that is that this story has been so bad that it has pulled people away. That was never the goal here. You weren't supposed to pull people away. I remember when the storyline started and the talks of Shane McMahon potentially being there. That's when it felt original, felt good. You know what I mean? I thought it was going to be something cool, over the top. Super excited about it. To ultimately just be like a constant shit show of a mess That's all it feels like, is a mess. And I hate it. Again, for somebody who has tried to come into this company, come back to the company, and actually enjoy it and watch it a certain way, this is one of those things that I was genuinely rubbed wrong by. Now, I'm not going to sit here and shit on the whole show and say, oh, like it was a horrible show. Again, I have my own feelings towards certain things. But that main event, I think at the end is going to really pull people away from this company, even including your sicko fan base that you have so rightfully been nice to and been kind to and really tried to please, right? Even they seen that and we're like, this is a shit show.
Yeah. You said Darby Allin. If AEW is committed to the Darby Allin thing, that's going to be a very, very big blunder. I think if you look at Will Ospreay, I love the guy. I think he's extremely talented, but his situation of winning a tournament to get to Jon Moxley instead of just being the guy that rallies the troops and forms the AEW Avengers and goes after Death Riders, like they could have done that. It's just common sense at this point. They didn't build a babyface to come after. And
no, because having Darby, I think we talked about it. I'm so sorry to cut you off. This is my bad.
Yeah, but
the one thing that we talked about last week at some point, I can't remember what episode, but I know that it was a discussion of like, you know, was Tony Khan correct for letting Darby Allin leave and go take this trip?
Wrong.
I think he was very much so wrong in this aspect where you never set up anybody other than him. You never did. You had an opportunity here. In my eyes, I really felt like, because I am a firm believer that Swerve really could have really picked up the ball here and ran with it. I think he could have been a great champion. Obviously, we know the work that Swerve's done before. But you had a strong chance here, and now you're just telling me that, like, hey, this is going to be the guy, Darby Allin or Will Ospreay, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news. As great of a match as it was, right? I think we can agree that last night was a great match with Will Ospreay and Kevin Knight. Overall, that match itself, at the end of the day, it was a great match, but it just, after the match that he had at Revolution with Kyle Fletcher, it was like, if you were ever going to position him in a good position, it was going to be after that match, not after the match that he had with Kevin Knight.
Yeah. I agree.
So you fumbled that opportunity.
I agree. Well, definitely more to talk about. I know you have a super chat on your channel. Let me just go through these because it's going so quickly.
Go do your thing.
Dwayne Jackson dropped a 20 bomb. He says, Ango, honestly, this is going to be an unpopular thing to say, but AEW is banking on Darby Allin to come back. Nobody wants Darby as a world champion, but I think that's the direction they're going. And I just want to really, really mention this. I think this is probably the most important aspect to it all. Darby Allin being rewarded with a world championship because he decided to go and leave. Like, how stupid do you got to be, by the way? There's all these reports coming out that, hey, Darby Allin's ready for a title reign. They're getting ready to position him as the world champion. The company is creatively struggling to the point where people are now disappointed in the creative decisions that are being made. Darby Allin's a crowd favorite. And then, by the way, you're going to go climb Mount Everest because it's a bucket list thing in your life. Brother, I hope you do it safely. I hope you come back and everything goes 100% well.
Absolutely.
But what kind of what kind of company rewards that behavior? Like, Tony Khan, I know you want to be the cool boss and shit, but like, your company right now delivered a pretty damn good pay-per-view up until that point. And by the way, that main event scene is the thing that has been consistently bad. It is consistently questionable. It's what's pulling people away. So, you know, and it goes to show you that AEW, as much as these sickos and these people want to act like they're not like a sports entertainment product, they are. And what they did was they pulled a note out of bad WWE booking. That was Vince McMahon levels of bad booking. Very, very bad. And like I said, there are things I liked about it too, which is so crazy. And I can't wait to talk about my positives. Trust me, guys, I do have some positive stuff to say about it.
Of course.
But the overwhelming opinion from people, including your most hardcore fan base, was, wow. Like, how did you do that? How did you blunder that? And then to make matters worse, what, you're going to have Darby Allin come back and then get rewarded with a championship? No way, brother. I'm sorry, Dwayne, but if Darby Allin came back as a world champion, I'm telling you right now, I think that could very well be the reason why I do 100% stop covering and watching AEW. because the harsh reality is you are now making it very clear that the stuff that is currently happening on TV no longer matters. And it's weird to hear that or say that about a company who says, hey, your wins and losses matter. The way that you get to a title matters and this progression system they have. But it very clearly shows us that, hey, you can go climb Mount Everest and come back and get a world championship reign. I don't want to be outraged about that just yet because it hasn't happened yet and we don't know. Maybe Tony Khan will pivot. And it wouldn't actually make logical sense because Darby Allin's not in the Owen Cup tournament. But if somehow, some way they do decide to make that happen at All In, I'm just letting everybody know. I will do one final stream shitting on All In, and I will not cover AEW moving forward. I will completely go hands off because of the fact that you are now telling me as a viewer, go fuck yourself. What we put on our TV really isn't a big deal anymore. More super chats, and then we'll get to Billy's super chat as well. I don't know why, but YouTube is really just glitching right now. So hopefully the stream is going well. But this is just a strange thing. Brian McHattie dropped a super chat. Brian McHattie, you know Billy at this point. Me and you know.
Oh, yeah.
You know where this is headed.
That's what you're laughing at.
Yeah. Bro, it comes up. It's hard not to. It's hard not to. So Brian McHattie drops $5. He says, "I will never joke about Japanese fetish. It was the absolute drizzling shit. The Bandito finish was horrendously cringy, as was the main event finish."
Dwayne Jackson super chat
really quick.
$20 with Anthony Bowen's.
Hold on. Okay, so my quick response to this. The Bandito finish. I thought it was pretty illogical. I thought it was pretty dumb. I thought AEW constantly exposes the referees to look bad. However,
every time.
However, what I will say is this. Clearly there's an issue with them trying to protect Jericho, which is a strange idea because they don't have to. I think Chris Jericho is a made man. He's a legend. He can lose from time to time. It's not a big deal. I thought it was very stupid how they did the finish. However, the right outcome was Bandito winning the championship.
Yes. They did take the right direction there.
Right direction, right decision. The execution was absolutely terrible. Now, if it's Tony Khan, Chris Jericho, I don't know what the issue is, but the idea of how they executed this finish, I thought, was the drizzling shits. I thought this was extremely bad. Extremely stupid because you're referees. And what the fuck are these wrestling companies doing, by the way, making your refs look so fucking dumb, bro?
Dumb as hell.
Dumb as hell. I don't get it. I don't understand it. But for some reason, and Billy, please chime in if you think I'm wrong or if you agree. I don't know. I just want to hear from you because I think deep down inside, this was the most puzzling thing in the world. Oh, the family comes out to ringside and shows him that he used the belt. Motherfucker, are you fucking that stupid, bro? Are you that stupid? That's what I want to know. Are you that stupid? As referees, are you that dumb? There's two referees. You can't figure this out, bro?
Yeah, you couldn't figure that out just talking to one another? The family had to show you? Again, it kind of going back to your point. It exposes it. It shows like, it only matters sometimes. That's what they just told you.
Unbelievable, man. That was just like
asinine.
I don't understand sometimes who is like the past month of TV, the build to this pay-per-view was actually pretty freaking good, man.
Yeah, the TV was good.
What are we doing here? And what, to protect Chris Jericho? Chris Jericho don't need to be protected.
That's a made man, folks.
He's a made man.
That's a made man.
Holy shit, bro. Holy shit. Thank you, Brian McHattie, for the super chat. I'm not addressing the Japanese fetish thing, as always. Omer, Real Take Wrestling, dropping another super chat, $4.99. He says, oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. There's, hold on. Yes, it was Real Take Wrestling. The main event scene in AEW and WWE is sad right now. Undercard is carrying. Omer, I love you, bro, but I disagree. I think, honestly, I'm very intrigued by the Gunther and Jey Uso storyline. I'm very intrigued by the Cody and John Cena storyline. I'm very intrigued by Roman, Seth, and Punk. I do agree that the undercard is very good in WWE and in AEW right now. I swear to God, bro, I'm just going to say, I think AEW until the Death Rider storyline is dead and gone. I think their main event scene is cooked.
You think AEW's is cooked?
I think AEW's is cooked.
Yeah, I mean, again, Omer, all the love to you, brother. Fully. Okay, here's the thing. It's like I agree with a lot of the things that he's saying because I understand that, like, you know, what is taking place on WWE TV genuinely may not be for everybody. Sure. I know a lot of people glorify what WWE is doing, and they offer a lot of. I think the thing about WWE is that they offer a lot of different storylines, right? Yeah. In different scenarios. But I can understand that it may not be for everybody. You know, the John Cena, Cody Rhodes thing, that may not be for somebody. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or the Gunther Jay storyline and how it's just picking up. Yeah. You know, people may still complain about that and say it's not enough. Like, those things happen. You know, I know the saying, so, you know, dead and gone now, but it's true. You know, there's different strokes for different folks. It's just real life, right?
Yeah.
And when it comes to AEW, though, and this is like my true feeling on, you know, where I stand with AEW, and maybe Ango, you can kind of attest to this. Yeah. It's that what they chose to pull last night, and you know how they chose to do it. It's, again, WWE has a different variety for everybody. Where AEW lacks is that there's not a lot of variety, at least to me. Right? This is my own personal feeling. I'm not here to sway anybody's opinion or anything like that. I'm just here to give mine. AEW doesn't have those different options, I guess. Right? And I think that's where AEW goes so wrong, because, you know, it'd be different if, say, for instance, this happened with Swerve and Mox, but Kyle Fletcher and you made we'll just use the Continental Championship for important. You chose to make that your second world title or whatever. And Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay go out there and they're telling one hell of a story and it's a banger. Maybe the backlash to what this is, it would still be bad, but I don't think it would be as bad. Again, it's all about how you choose to book your shows and how you tell your stories.
I think the simple response to this is the more that AEW tries to be like WWE with these super cinematic, I don't know, I'm not sure if cinema is the right word, but these like super in-depth stories, I think the more that they try to do it, the more it actually hurts them, because that's not what their fan base is looking for. It's not. And I think the thing that makes it so difficult to watch as a viewer is the fact that there hasn't been an overwhelmingly positive response to the storyline initially. So that's the issue here. It's not even like the reason why people are turning on this is it was not a bad pay-per-view up until that moment. So you have this moment and it becomes a thing that completely derails your pay-per-view, and it becomes this thing where, like, I don't know how to explain it, Billy, but Kenny Omega does not feel like the draw that he is. Okada has been cooled down. Okada and Kenny have both been cooled down significantly. That's a world championship feud that everybody would go crazy about.
Absolutely.
That's the thing. That's the selling point of AEW. That's their vision. That's their identity. They're doing something different from their identity. And one thing that you mentioned was WWE has more options. This is where AEW is impacted greatly by not having a brand split. Because if brand split existed, then there would be two main event stories that you would follow. Mm-hmm. And whatever
you would have more options.
Exactly, but they choose not to, and I think that plays a little bit of a blowback. Shout out to Real Take Wrestling for the super chat. Nico Bubba dropping $10. He says the Bucks coming in and helping the Death Riders makes sense because they both had a takeover of AEW story going on. The Elite story fell off of a cliff, so this ties loose ends. Nico Bubba, thank you for the super chat. My disagreement here is that the Elite storyline fell off a cliff, and they never ever revisited it. The thing is, Okada was part of that storyline. They attacked Kenny Omega, and all we get is stare downs between Okada and Kenny. If I'm Kenny Omega and I battled diverticulitis and I just got jumped by the Elite, I'm probably going to go beat the fuck out of them. Not sit here and do a stare down every few months. So the problem is the Elite storyline did fall off a cliff. This doesn't tie any loose ends for me because at the end of the day, they dropped the story. So if that is the case, if their version of this, if what is happening on TV right now, what we saw last night is they want to tie up loose ends, my brother, you don't got any fucking laces to tie. There is no loose ends to tie. You cannot stop a storyline and then randomly get back to it and reference it when you never continued that storyline. You have to be the most fucking idiotic booker in the world if you were like, hey, we're going to do this storyline, take it off TV, eventually we'll get back to it. There's no layers. There's no beef to it. There's no investment. Nobody cares. And by the way, let me just be very clear, and I will get to this point, I swear to God, in the near future, we're getting through these super chats. But I just want everybody to know, I have no problem with the Young Bucks being involved. It's actually one of the things I did like last night. But it's all for a different reason, and it has nothing to do with the Elite storyline, and it has nothing to do with them tying up loose ends.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better.
Thank you. Brian McHattie dropping $2. He says either new ownership or a real creative director. That's what needs to be changed in AEW. Billy, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I did see something, and maybe Ango, I know you're Mr. Breaking News.
Yeah.
Maybe you could clarify this for me, but I did see that Bryan Danielson was backstage through the whole night.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was correct.
Should have appeared on screen and saved the company.
Oh, please, at this point. But yeah, no, I mean, here's the thing. Tony Khan, he's a billionaire. He's going to do whatever he wants. He's not going to sell the company. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, guys. But maybe if we voice our opinion super duper loud or just walk away, he'll be forced to make a change. That's how to get change, you have to be the voice of change. And if you voice it loud enough, maybe it'll come. But right now, there still is a widespread of people that do believe that what is taking place is actually not a bad thing. So therefore, under that circumstance, AEW won't change because, again, there is a group of people that do include themselves in this and say that what is taking place is good and it makes sense to them. And I hate to break it to you guys, it's almost a delusion thing.
Yeah.
They choose to live in a delusional land where, oh, yeah, this all works. No, it doesn't. Yeah. No, it doesn't. You know, we talked a minute ago about the Young Bucks falling off of a cliff. Yeah, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. If this is you trying to revisit it, you should have let it stay off the cliff.
Yep. I agree. Dwayne Jackson followed up with the $20 super chat. He says, with Anthony Bowens re-debuting with a new looking gimmick, I like it. But at the same time, who does this serve? Max Caster has been a complete afterthought to get Bowens over. Why Caster start off strong and then a loser? Max Caster sucks. He makes me want to turn off the TV every single time he appears on the TV. Not because he's good at his gimmick. I think he is bad at his gimmick. I think his gimmick is really not fun to watch. I don't respect Max Caster as a talent. I think when he was part of the Acclaimed, he was clearly the weaker link. For years, I have said on this channel, on my live streams, that Anthony Bowens should be a future world champion in this company. Shout out to the fact that AEW showed me yet again why. Max Caster is clearly the weaker link. I think Max Caster only got pops because he had controversial rap bars. And I think it was very clear from a presentation standpoint, from a performance standpoint, Anthony Bowens always has what it takes to be a standout singles guy.
And again, they proved that last night.
His reappearance was the first time I didn't want to watch Max Caster, or was the first time I actually wanted to watch a Max Caster singles match.
And I'm here to tell you, they made him look like, I think somebody said it on commentary, but they said he looks like a superhero.
I don't even know if I would say he looks like a superhero, but the whole gimmick, the whole everything, the music, the
music was fire.
Everything about Anthony Bowens showing up last night was sick. I loved it.
And then showing up with Billy Gunn too.
Yes, I like the fact because I do like how AEW utilizes legends as managers.
Yes,
Billy Gunn being with Anthony Bowens is great. Move on from Max Caster. Let's get this guy in the title picture somewhere. Let's get him some credible wins on Collision. In fact, I would say because Collision is such an enjoyable show to watch, kind of have Anthony Bowens pick up some nice wins over there. And then when the time is right, whatever belt, I don't care, but get him going for a belt and really try to propel him. This is a guy that's been there. He's like a day one kind of guy almost. And he's very, very talented on the mic. He could be a great spokesperson. I've been saying this for years. It was very clear that Max Caster was the weak link. And
here's the thing that I want to say. I'm so sorry to cut you off.
Are you cutting me? It's starting to agitate me. No kidding.
So look, you're starting to agitate. I'm playing. When it comes to Anthony Bowens, you know, this is where I think AEW can maybe take a play out of WWE's book.
Yeah.
You don't have to transcend him into the title picture right away.
You don't.
Because there's a lot of stories already being told. So you don't have to necessarily go walk into Double or Nothing and have him face Adam Cole for the TNT Championship, or have him go face Kenny Omega for the International Championship. You don't have to do that right away. You can wait till after All In, which is your technical quote-unquote version of WrestleMania, where you go into some sort of reset, right? So you can wait till after that and have Anthony Bowens be a part of that reset. And you just let him right now go get some glorified wins. Let him go pick up a couple of big victories. If you want him to have a singles match on Double or Nothing, I'm fine with that. You know what I mean? If I, for the sake of storytelling right now, if you want to go out and put him, I don't know, just a random name at Double or Nothing, go ahead. You know what I mean? Like, just make him look serious till after All In, when then you can kind of put him in some type of title picture. Just make it make sense.
Yeah. And really what I want to say, and I'm going to ask for 30 seconds. Don't interrupt me for 30 seconds. All right, Billy, can you do that?
No.
Just a quick 30 seconds, and I actually do want you to respond. What we saw with Anthony Bowens last night was something great. He got repackaged, got the new music, he's got the look. As I've said, this guy was always the stronger part of the Acclaimed. The issue is AEW has a hard time creating new stars, right? And they leech off the fact that Will Ospreay was a top guy in New Japan, and Jay White was a top guy in New Japan. Adam Cole was a top guy in WWE. But Anthony Bowens is an AEW homegrown star who is now getting a serious singles push. I think, deep down inside, you got to give this guy some great wins, some major wins. Don't rush him for a title, but it should very well be in your company's future to push this man. Yes or no?
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you do push him, who would you put him against? Well, the good thing is Anthony Bowens is a great wrestler. So put him in the ring with other great wrestlers and let him go out there with that presentation he has. And when he has these great matches, he will even get more over with the fan base. You don't need to do any scissoring. You don't need to do any gimmicky stuff. This guy is the 5-tool player. He's got a new identity. And let him take off.
Very simple.
Simple as that.
Very, very simple.
Thank you, Billy. Thank you so much.
That was over 30 seconds, by the way.
It's okay. You didn't interrupt, so I appreciate it. Shout out to Dwayne Jackson for the $20 super chat. And then I think there's one more that I just have to get to, and then we'll get to your super chat as well. Daniel Len dropping $1.99. He says, last night was a glorified AEW Dynamite. I won't say it was a glorified AEW Dynamite. It did feel like a pay-per-view. But what I will say is there was matches on the card that didn't have to be on the pay-per-view. For example, Kyle Fletcher, Mark Briscoe, Mercedes Moné, and Julia Hart. Those definitely didn't have to be on the pay-per-view. And I will say the match that kicked things off was an amazing match. Kevin Knight, I will sing the praises forever. I thought him and Will Ospreay was excellent in the ring. However, that also didn't need to be on the pay-per-view. In fact, you could have given them a little bit more time as a main event on Collision or Dynamite. That's kind of how I view that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think last night was a glorified Dynamite?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a glorified Dynamite. You know what I mean? I know that was actually, so fun fact off screen, prior to all of this, Ango used to text me a lot of the times about AEW's pay-per-views saying that they might potentially be a glorified AEW Dynamite. We can remember those, right?
Yeah.
Truth of the matter is no. Kind of backing off of what Ango said, there were just some things that didn't need to take place. As much as I loved the Kyle Fletcher, Mark Briscoe match, I did think it was a good match. It didn't need to be there. Kevin Knight and Will Ospreay, also, great match. Didn't need to be there. Mercedes and Julia did not need to be there. Again, this is just AEW, and what they choose to do is they want to fill these gaps because AEW wants you guys to quote unquote feel like you got your money's worth. So they add so many matches and they go from 8 to 12 to make you feel like you got your money's worth. Problem is people then choose to complain, right? And they don't feel like they got their money's worth because of the way you ended it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There has to be a structure issue. I think there was a super chat earlier where we talked about, the new owner or whatever, or just new writing. You got to be loud and you got to voice everything that's going on and what's wrong. And again, the only way change comes is if you voice it.
Yeah, I agree. Shout out to Daniel for the super chat. Billy, go ahead and check your super chats. And then,
so I got Yeah. I got a $10 super chat from Ronnie Southern. He said, I'm disappointed because unless something unexpected happens, we're all but guaranteed that the AEW championship will be in hiding until All In. What good is it to have a title that isn't on TV? Angle, I'll let you start, and I'm going to piggyback off you.
Yeah, I think forget about it from a creative standpoint, because creatively, I think that's just a disaster. I really do think that's a disaster. In fact, if Jon Moxley, I think it's hypocritical because Jon Moxley's whole thing is whoever beats him should be worthy to hold it. Well, then show us. Show us, fucker. Show us. Show us that this is the prize, but you're not showing us the prize. And at the end of the day, I think that's terrible. But also, just from a business standpoint, you sell belt replicas. In fact, somebody on Twitter posted a video from the merch stand. It was $850 for the belt. Well, how are you going to get sales if you're not showcasing it? So simple as that.
Again, kind of going back to what we talked about last week, from a marketing standpoint, because I do still agree with these things. There's three things that you have to get correct. Number one, you have to fix your creative. You then have to get back your lapsed fans, and then you can go into the marketing. That's how I feel. The problem is there's nothing to market right now. So as much as you're not even doing the first two steps and you're messing up the creative, so you definitely can't go get the lapsed fans, which then means you can't market correctly. You are now dismantling all three of those processes all in one. And then by not showing your world championship to the people that you even do have around, you're not even marketing it correct. That is horrible, horrible decision making. Having somebody lock this belt in the briefcase, again, I talked about it in the beginning of the stream saying, AEW had this decision where, they want the person, to feel special who gets the belt or whatever. That makes zero sense to me. I think it is the goofiest thing in the world, if I'm being quite honest with you guys. In simple terms, I do believe that this is going to be the case until after All In. Where we see it come from outside of the briefcase, or maybe All In the night of. But overall, just horrible decision making on AEW's part. Again, going back to just be loud, be vocal, because I'll be the first to tell you that the change needs to come really bad, and we'd be naive to say otherwise. So, Ronnie,
Wayne
thank you
Jackson
so much for your super chat. Very much appreciated.
Card in Owen Cup?
Was there another super chat, or was that the
Alexander?
No, that was the only one. Maybe I should. No, that was the only one.
Well, Dwayne Jackson just dropped a super chat for $5. He says, Ango, who is the wild card in the Owen Cup? Darby Allin or Josh Alexander? So it can't be Darby Allin, right? Because he's going to go climb Mount Everest. So I do think it has to be Josh Alexander.
He didn't even start climbing yet.
He starts climbing on April 15th.
And it's a 2-month climb, just so everybody knows.
So.
And then you're telling me that you want him to be back by All In to win the AEW World Championship, and then if not, potentially win it from Will Ospreay later down the line. It doesn't make any sense, guys. It doesn't make any sense. The math ain't mathing, folks.
Yeah. I'm sorry, man. If it's Darby Allin, if Darby Allin is in the cup, and I just hate this notion that they're going to use the tournament as the main event to determine the main event for All In, because just right now it's not productive for AEW. Your storyline is saving the company from this disaster which is the Death Rider. So, the best way for me to articulate this is literally copy WWE.
Yeah, I mean, at this point you kind of got to
copy WWE, copy TNA. What we saw with Joe Hendry, what we saw with Cody Rhodes led to great stuff for both of those companies. Why aren't we doing that with AEW? I'm sorry. It's true. I'm not telling Tony Khan to really do anything other than just, hey, you have a baby face. Like if it's Darby Allin and you had Darby Allin every single week getting killed by the Death Riders, and then eventually he wins, perfect, well done. But no, this guy, he ain't on TV.
No, he's not even. He's not even close to being back.
So strange. So strange. I do want to turn the topic a little bit, and I really want to. By the way, shout out to Dwayne Jackson for the super chat. Appreciate you, my guy. I want to talk about the Young Bucks aspect of things.
Okay.
Because I said I like the Young Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
And I like them showing up. I have no problem with the Young Bucks showing up I have no problem with the Young Bucks hitting Swerve with the BTE trigger. I have no problem with them getting involved. In fact, I would say that there is an opportunity here for AEW to do something very smart.
Okay. I would love to hear this.
So, there's flaws here. That's the problem.
Of course.
Okay, Swerve. If Swerve wanted to go after the Young Bucks and he needed an army to do so, who can he call upon? There's a plethora of people he can call upon, right? If you're Swerve, you have a lot of people that you can call that are babyface acts that can go and go up against the Young Bucks. The problem is, it seems very clear that they're going with Hangman and Swerve. That's my issue with what we saw. I have no problem.
Like I said, yes.
Because what you could have done was have Swerve introduce two talents that could have came to his aid. It didn't have to be Hangman Page. So my issue is not that the Young Bucks were there. My issue is that the Young Bucks were there when Hangman Page was the one who came to the aid.
Dwayne Jackson super chatted $5. I don't think the belt is the briefcase. Or do you think a championship is under a new redesign?
There was 2 super chats interrupting me mid-thought, but I have to do it because it cuts me off. Real Take Wrestling says, TK, if you're listening, do not copy WWE. That was $1.99 super chat. Well, Omer, it's not hard, buddy. It's known in history of professional wrestling. You create a very, very hot baby face, and you let him go on a chase, and he faces a little bit of setbacks, and then it's the Rocky Balboa story. And
it's like the easiest storytelling.
It's easy. It's the easiest one. And by the way, it makes the most sense when your company's being infiltrated by Jon Moxley and the Death Riders. So that's why I say copy the WWE. Because I promise you right now, the amount of effort, which by the way, let me get this point out there. Hangman Swerve should be the main event of All In. Why? Because that's an example of a really, really good storyline with long-term effects, right? So what I'm seeing here is if WWE were doing this, they would 100% nailed it. And I know people don't want to hear that from me, and they don't want to hear, oh, WWE good, AEW bad, but that's the reality. You follow the WWE method there, and it just delivers. But the problem is you're so committed to the Death Rider storyline, you can't get to anything good. And that's my problem with the Young Bucks and Hangman Page version of this. Hangman, like Swerve having to deal with the Young Bucks is cool because then guess what? You have something to do for Okada and the Young Bucks until Kenny and Okada at All In, right? So that's the problem here, though, is there's nothing connecting all these dots that are happening along the way. That's the problem. So, like, for example, I'll use the Hurt Syndicate as an example. Tag team champions. Oh, Young Bucks want to go after the tag team championships. They go after Swerve. Swerve needs a little bit of help. It's beneficial business for both of them. Hey, Swerve, you work with the Hurt Syndicate a little bit, and, we'll be there to aid you. You aid us, right? Okay, cool. Young Bucks versus Hurt Syndicate. Young Bucks and Okada versus Swerve, Lashley, and Shelton. They don't have to be a group, but it's just the point, right? But they don't do anything like that because there's no connection to Hurt Syndicate and Swerve, right? But there is a connection, or there is a reason for the Young Bucks to go after the Hurt Syndicate. Okay, so we're going to have a non-title tag team match between the Young Bucks and Hangman and Swerve? For what reason? What reason would the Young Bucks have an issue with Swerve? People mentioned it earlier. Oh, because the Elite storyline. Sorry, that doesn't work for me. They canceled that storyline. We're not going to go back to a storyline that was completely dropped because all of a sudden it makes sense. It doesn't make sense because you didn't build it up. So the problem that I have really with the main event is everything that happened really doesn't tie into anything that currently happened beforehand. And so when you look at the Young Bucks showing up, and this is one of the things, like, I don't mind the Young Bucks being there and him going after them, but why do we have to sit here and watch the Death Riders retain and go through this? And then why are we pivoting from Swerve going after Jon Moxley to now potentially teaming with Hangman? That's a fun storyline. The idea of Swerve and Hangman teaming together is great. Okay, well, let's do a makeshift tag team. Well, we can't because right now, as it stands, the Hurt Syndicate are holding the titles. But really what you could have done was build up an actual program for months between the Young Bucks and the Hurt Syndicate. Oh, wait, you didn't do that because your EVPs haven't been around. Everything is impacted from the simple fact that storytelling was shitty beforehand, and now it's led you to an impossible situation where you have to dig yourself out of this hole. And it is very difficult to dig yourself out of a hole that you dug in the first place. Because if you look at the main event, not even the main event, the triple threat match was such an awesome match between Omega and Ricochet and Speedball, and Kenny retains. Awesome, cool. Oh, we get a stare down between him and Okada. Great. Why hasn't Kenny been going after Okada after what they did to him? Okay, why is the Young Bucks going after Swerve now? Why didn't we get some sort of response to that previous storyline? Why wasn't there a reaction to it? Oh, they didn't follow through with it. My problem that I have here is the idea is good. How you get there and how you execute after is fucking terrible. And this is where I genuinely fucking have a distaste for AEW in the main event scene. Everything else is so good. Everything else has been very solid for the last month. But then you get to a point where it's like, and this is the problem with Tony Khan. I know this is Tony Khan. If you were sitting right here next to me, I would say, tell me deep down inside what your long-term plan is. And I guarantee you, Tony has a long-term plan that he is so stuck to that he is not paying attention to any of the actual outrage or the feedback that he is genuinely getting. You want to give me Swerve and Hangman together? Sweet. What I would do is put them in the tag team division and go after the tag team titles for All In. Okay, but how do we get there? Well, it's hard to say how we're going to get there. We don't have a vision of how we're going to get there because there's been nothing that suggested that they can get there. So to me, I think the problem is that you have, and there is a little bit of a hard task here. I'm not going to lie. But when you look at WWE and AEW, Triple H has a long-term plan, but has called audibles in the past. AEW has had a long-term plan, and they stick to it. And the problem is, both companies need to understand when to pivot, when to actually pivot. Now,
it's all about understanding.
It's about understanding. And it's also the vision. You got to show us the vision. You're not showing us the vision. We are not seeing the vision for this company. And by the way, you teased everybody that we're getting Hangman and Swerve. Like, I'm so sorry to say this, but a tag team between them is going to be fun and it's going to be enjoyable to watch. I genuinely do believe both of them being babyface will be fun to watch because I am a fan of makeshift tag teams. However, how we got there, first of all, you did it way too soon. And why are the Young Bucks going after Swerve? Oh, you got to watch Dynamite to find out. Okay, but why? Like,
I don't want to tune into that. I don't. I'm sorry.
Just, you're adding to a bad storyline with more bad storytelling.
Right.
Dwayne Jackson super chatted $10. Death Riders with Bucks versus Hangman and Page and others for Blood Guts. Don't know Blood and Guts is. It's usually in May or June. I think this is start of the build to Blood and Guts. Brian McCaddy super chatted $5. When the Golden Children, center of attention, are part-time, or injured on the regular, E-Bucks, Darby etc., it's hard to plan anything worthwhile.
So 2 super chats came in. We have Dwayne Jackson dropping a 10 bomb. He says Death Riders with the Young Bucks versus Hangman and Page and others for Blood and Guts. Don't know when Blood and Guts is. It's usually around May or June. I think this is the start of the build to Blood and Guts. So I hope we're not looking that far ahead because we have Double or Nothing. I think this could lead to Tony Khan's infamous Anarchy in the Arena. But at the same time, too, this is where I have like questions, right? So why did the Bucks align with the Death Riders, and why aren't the Bucks coming out with Okada? Why is Jack Perry not on TV? What happened to that group?
You destroyed it.
Now imagine if the Bucks came out yesterday with Okada and Jack Perry, and they laid waste to Hangman and Page and stood tall to celebrate with the Death Riders, and they said, hey, we formed a new alliance. This is the Elite Death Riders. I wouldn't have liked it, but it would have made a lot of sense.
But for sure. I mean, it's the heel side of it.
For sure. And then you have Hangman and Page and Kenny and Will Ospreay and the Avengers come out and save the day. Cool. But there's no connection. Why would Kenny now come to the aid of Hangman and Page, Hangman and Swerve?
Yeah, exactly.
See what I'm saying? There's lack of connection between everything. So this is the idea that Tony Khan has, where he's willing to throw things on TV and not understand how we got there, and it's problematic. And I'm sorry to tell you guys this, but Dynasty, the reason why Dynasty is being met with so much backlash is because people want that storyline to end. This wasn't a moment that happened and they're like, oh, I'm excited to see what's next. It's, damn, bro, like we wanted this to end. And it goes back to what I said last week and it goes back to what I said today. Swerve is not that guy.
Yeah, shitty as it is.
Jet
You're right.
TV super chatted
At least
$10.
Tony Khan thinks
it was
that.
Tony Khan the booker that was Tony Khan the man that buried Swerve Strickland because he didn't like what Swerve said to Booker. Also, Booker T and Tony Khan are good friends with each other.
Thank you, Dwayne Jackson, for the 10 bomb. Brian McHattie dropping 5. He says, when the Golden Children, center of attention, are part-time or injured or on the regular, an example, Bucks, Darby, etc., it's hard to plan anything worthwhile. Yes, 100%. This is a major flaw that AEW has. Your EVPs have been ready to go for months. You pull them off TV, they're not really there. They're not doing anything of late. It's weird because you could just put them in the tag team division, you know, because they're a tag team. Darby Allin, same thing. Like, I don't know. You gotta your people not being on TV regularly. They shouldn't be put into plans of any kind. That's a very big problem in AEW. And I'm sorry, man. It just don't work out for me. It doesn't work out for me. I think there's a serious lack of planning in this company, and I think Tony Khan has exposed himself as a weak booker.
That's the biggest problem. It's the planning. There's a lack of planning. It doesn't exist in this company right now, and you're absolutely right. He looks like a very weak booker. You know, they had Swerve come out talking about Booker T. I think I seen a quote tweet. Somebody had said, you know, he's worried about the wrong booker right now.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Oh, man. And by the way, that's who you want as your spokesperson to go after. Right. Oh, for my own amusement, fuck Booker T. Bro, bro, like literally you're so talented. What are you involved with petty back and forth social media bullshit? You literally
even fucking matter.
Yeah, like you could literally be the guy in AEW and this is what you're doing. You're such a fucking talented individual, man. And I don't know what it is about the pettiness that comes from people in AEW, but it happens so often. It's like, dude, fucking stop worrying about making a storyline with Booker T work. He's in the other company. How about you worry about fucking adding some flair to this? Look how Drew McIntyre uses social media and interviews to literally push what he's doing on TV. You literally watch Drew McIntyre on TV and interviews and you're like, damn, this guy is so fucking good at like blurring the lines. Why not do that for your company and for your own situation? I don't know. To me, it's so weird. And it goes back to the super chat too. It's like, you look at who AEW has on TV, and there's so many great people on TV. Why aren't they not being booked in a position as a clear vision of them facing the adversity and climbing the ranks and climbing the ladder to get to the title? Why is it that somebody has to go win a tournament to do it in this particular situation? Why is this happening in a situation? Why is there a situation where people are so confused by the things that you're putting in your main event match? And that's the question, right? It's confusing. It is so confusing. Hangman and Swerve, that was such an impactful moment that I absolutely loved, and you wasted it on Swerve to lose? Dude, what I would have done was what any logical person would do if they want to win the championship. I would have helped Swerve win the match, and then when he wins the tournament, it becomes a storyline that you can revisit, because then your path to All In is, me and you have history. I appreciate the fact that you understand that you deserved it. And, you know, me and you are showing our human sides and we're starting to understand the repercussions of our actions. But make no mistake about it, this friendliness does not last until All In. I want your world championship. How cool would it have been if Hangman saved Strickland yesterday and helped him win the belt and then immediately took him out?
Okay, you sound like, because I know you were very big on Hangman being the guy. That would have been the way to make Hangman the guy and make both participants, Swerve and Hangman, look very, very good. That would have been the route to take. Yeah. Because you could have, and granted, I know people's argument, oh, you want to play hot potato with the belt. You're going to have Swerve win it to ultimately face somebody at Double or Nothing and then lose it to Hangman. Right now, yeah. Where we stand, yep. That would have been fine.
Oh, and by the way, my version is actually even crazier, Billy. You know why? Because there's actually a long history and a long build-up that actually really, really solves this major problem. It's the one storyline in AEW that is really phenomenal booking. And on top of that, it's the one storyline that everybody universally loves, by the way. Arguably one of the best storylines in professional wrestling. And by the way, you didn't have to throw a whole bunch of random nonsense to confuse people along the way. I don't know, man. If people aren't feeling the fucking storyline and they're being pretty vocal about it, and your ratings are less than 600,000 every fucking week, and you're losing to NXT, maybe perhaps you shouldn't be worried about these positive reports coming out about HBO Max numbers. Maybe you should be a little bit more. Maybe you should pay attention a little bit more to the fact that people just genuinely don't fuck with Jon Moxley as champion. And by the way, this is so crazy for me to say. I love Jon Moxley. I think Jon Moxley's a hell of a fucking talent. Amazing. I think he's so awesome. Amazing. And the Death Riders thing is so bad that it makes me not even want to watch Jon Moxley on my screen anymore. Fucking A, bro. Get those trios belts off the fucking off Pac, Yuta, and Claudio. Kill the fucking Death Riders. Let Moxley do his thing with Marina Shafir solo. Let's clean this shit up. And then at the end of the day, let's get to what really matters. Because like I said, if it was Kenny and Okada for the world title, the people would not be fucking crying about it today. If it was fucking Swerve and Hangman, people would not be crying about it today. Nobody would be mad. You're taking the wrong fucking pivot. For what? So you can have Will Ospreay win at All In? Brother, no. Don't have Will Ospreay go and win at All In. Let this be the storyline. This is a storyline that people love. What's the reason that Ospreay's now going to have beef with Jon Moxley because Ospreay won a tournament? All of a sudden, he won a tournament. Now he wants to save AEW. But meanwhile, Swerve is, at least at the minimum, Swerve has been in the position where he's been trying to save it and get after the belt. You know what I mean? And he's obviously been working his way back to the belt. So the thing is, you could have had Swerve, yet again, win at Dynasty. You could have easily had Hangman help him. And then Hangman could have taken him out because Hangman knows that deep down inside. You know what I'm saying? There's still, you continue that storyline. And now the greatest main event for All In would have been Hangman and Swerve because Hangman won the tournament. And Hangman only wanted Swerve to win.
Those two deserved.
Yes, but also Hangman logically would want Swerve to win because he knows, hey, I can get under this guy's skin. He's emotional. He can see that. He can identify that he already got in Swerve's head. He's emotional. I could get in his head. I would rather go up against him versus Jon Moxley and 6 fucking people. Let me help him win the belt, and then I'm going to try to win the tournament. And then, by the way, at All In, that's the main event, and I have a chance to become champion. It's so much easier without having to fucking do all this bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Crazy. Shout out to Brian McHattie for the super chat. Jet Set TV dropping 10. He says that was it. Tony Khan, the booker, that was Tony Khan, the man. That buried Swerve Strickland because he didn't like what Swerve said to Booker. Also, Booker T and Tony Khan are good friends with each other. I don't know about their friendship. I don't know anything about that. I don't think Tony Khan is burying Swerve. I think Tony Khan feels like this is a better Swerve for Swerve, like the storyline. Nobody saw it coming, so it's like a cool little swerve. But what Tony Khan doesn't realize by positioning this is that people are not enjoying the Death Rider storyline. And so what sucks is you could have actually done this whole thing with Swerve winning the belt. The problem is not Swerve and Hangman. The problem is literally the fact that the Death Rider is retained and nobody wants it. Nobody is enjoying it. And while all these sickos go on Twitter and be like, AEW's ratings are going up, man, they're getting momentum. My guy, they are so far away from that 800, 900,000 number that they were doing. It's very clear that AEW lost a lot of momentum after Punk. They never hit the same ratings. And forget about the ratings. They're literally doing smaller ass venues because of it. Hangman and Swerve is your way of saving that. Hangman and Swerve, how fucking dumb do you have to be to literally just double down on a storyline that nobody's enjoying?
Yeah, I mean, they've done it on numerous occasions. I think JD might have said it, but he was supposed to lose that belt like 3 pay-per-views ago. What are we doing?
Your own hardcore fans are literally turning on the product. Literally turning on the product. People are literally being like, I don't like this, man. It's not good. And by the way, I hate to be the guy that says it, but I have to say it. A lot of these sickos are talking a lot of shit about Jey Uso, but I don't see Jey Uso having a world championship match in front of 16,000 people in a stadium. It's looking around 50,000. So Jey Uso is going to have 50,000 plus people yeeting, and if he wins the world championship, those sickos are going to be like, well, he can't wrestle. Well, it just goes to show you the formula is pretty simple. You follow what the people are paying for, and the people are paying to watch Jey Uso. So at the end of the day, as a business owner, don't you have to think, what is so special about Jey Uso? He's really not a great wrestler, right? If I'm Tony Khan, that's a thought that I'm having. It's the storyline. Okay. Okay, yeah. See, the thing, it's kind of weird, though. The numbers have gone down under Jon Moxley. The attendance has gone down under Jon Moxley. And even the sickos that I interact with on Twitter are even saying that it's not that good. Man, forget about what Ango says, but damn, a lot of people just, it's not the same. Okay, I have an idea. Let's pivot. Let's break away from it, not double down on it. And he's doubled down on it. And the reality is, once you get to that point where you're doubling down on a storyline that people are actively rejecting, you are losing viewership. And I think... And I think what's really happened here, and it goes to show you what I've said before. It's like you climb the ladder. There's a ladder for storytelling, right? You climb the ladder and you get to the end. The problem is Tony Khan basically could have got to the end of it and started something even better that would have saved their company, but instead he stayed on the ladder, climbing to basically nothing. You have not shown us on TV that you have built something so intriguing where people are absolutely invested in it. And so the thing is, when I actually say I kind of like what happened in the main event, I like the idea of it. I like the idea of what was done. I like the idea of, hey, you throw Swerve and Hangman together, but it was the wrong result, and you're doubling down on the Death Riders. If Hangman would have helped Swerve and it killed the Death Riders and it ended the title reign, and you get back to this being a championship feud, that's your championship feud that's going to make money. Because now here's the good thing. If Hangman beats Swerve for the belt at All In, oh my God, we get Hangman versus Ospreay. Who wouldn't want to watch that? Everybody would. Okay, hold on. I got something even better. Kenny wins the championship from Okada and he unifies the belt. Okay, eventually he needs to drop that belt. Oh my God, you're telling me we could get Kenny and Hangman again that has a very beautiful, rich history? Oh my God, that would have been so great. But you can't do any of these other great storylines or these other great matches for the championship and can't create other great feuds for them if you're simply going and sticking with the Death Riders. And that's the problem. You're sticking to the Death Riders when nobody wants it. And when nobody wants it and you keep doing it, you know what happens? People say, I'm not going to buy tickets. And by the way, that wasn't the only creative blunder that they had last night. That wasn't the only creative blunder. Because now you got to look at the Bandito Chris Jericho thing. People argue this shouldn't have been on the card. A lot of people were not happy with the execution of that match. A lot of people really didn't care about FTR turning heel until the antics that came after with them making fun of him with the medical equipment.
The neck brace,
neck brace and stuff. But everybody was like, oh, predictable. I had no problem with the FTR heel turn. It was just very, very predictable. So the thing is, like, what's the big issue here? And I'll sum it up very quickly. And Billy, I'll let you talk. But the big issue here is that there's a bad idea and there's a good idea. And you have good ideas that are taking place other places on the card. You have some bad ideas that are taking place on the other card as well, but they're not a big focus for people because the biggest mistake you made was in your main event scene where it's the biggest struggle. So that's the one that stands out the most, and no matter what good you're doing, that is killing it. And then I want to make this clear. If Cody goes in, let's just say, for example, Cody goes up against John Cena and John Cena turns heel babyface right away. People are going to say, well, that was the fucking worst heel turn ever and WWE sucks.
Yeah.
But if WWE has Cody beat John Cena and John Cena has a new group of people that attack Cody after the match, you're going to be more inclined to watch because you're interested in the heel turn, right? The problem is the Death Rider storyline started off good and then progressively got worse and worse and worse. Now it's to the point where people are just like done with
loses
it.
a title.
I mean, it's simple. We're done with it. We're over with it. I mean, we can go on and on and on about these things. Bro, it was just horrible booking. It was horrible decision making. It was awfully executed. And overall, it overwhelmed a lot of people. It's time to give this shit up. It's time to give up the Death Riders. Again, you were supposed to do it so long ago and you still chose not to. And here we are having this discussion, many, many months after we've been having the discussion, right? Because this has been ongoing and lingering. It's overwhelming, man. It sucks, but it's time to kill off the Death Riders. It's time to let that go. If you want your company to move forward in any positive way, in any positive light, the best thing you could do is take that belt from Jon Moxley. It's the best thing that you can do. And you have to do it correctly. And now it just feels like, we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier. How can they come back from this? Can they come back from this? It's going to be very, very, if it wasn't already difficult, it's going to be much more difficult now.
Yeah. Shout out to Jet Set TV for the super chat. Brian McCaddy coming through with another $2. He says, "Scared to think Cornette might be correct on AEW." I'm not aware of Cornette's comments on AEW. I do not watch Jim Cornette
either.
I don't know what his views are on AEW. I'm not very aware. But what I will say is, I believe I have been right about AEW for a long time, and that's the fact that they do shoot themselves in the foot. They're not listening. They're not actively listening to people. They can sit there and lie to you at a media scrum and tell you that they are, but they're not. And I think one issue, too, that people need to realize about AEW is that if you're a sports company, like Will Ospreay keeps saying in interviews, you're a sport, you're this, you're that. Cool.
Yeah.
So why did you give us this? What is so sports like
about that shit?
Yeah, like the John Moxley thing. I mean, if you really think about it, Will Ospreay winning the tournament means a sport. But then, so you're trying to mix the two. It just doesn't work. It's an identity issue. AEW has always had an identity issue. I've said it since day one of the company being around. And it makes me a grifter and it makes me negative Nancy and this and that. But, that's fine. I'm cool with that. I will embrace that forever. I will consistently embrace that because if you go back, and I know people don't do this, they refuse to do this because they don't want to be like, it's like Pete Rocks in the chat. Shout out to you, Pete, because I see sometimes, I don't know if you're trolling, I don't know, whatever.
He just has a very high take on AEW.
You have a very, very defend everything at all costs, and that's fine. And I'm glad that people like you do exist because obviously you do support them, and that's great. However, it's not about what we like individually sometimes. Sometimes you have to look at the grand scope of things and realize, holy shit, something is not working. We can't sit here and say AEW is gaining momentum as a business because, well, that's not true. The numbers are completely down. Fuck the TV numbers. The numbers in attendance are completely down. We should not be excited about AEW Dynasty selling 6,000 tickets when they are capable of doing 13,000 in an arena, right? We shouldn't be excited about that. Good for them that they sold out or nearly sold out. That's awesome. But you're selling your tickets for cheap, right? And you're doing smaller venues. The reason why you're forced to make these decisions is because you're not putting out the quality that people know you can. And I'm sorry, but AEW has never been the same since 2021. They haven't. And a perfect example of this was Adam Cole beating Daniel Garcia. Cool, he beat Daniel Garcia, but we just had the most meaningless title reign for Daniel Garcia, who was so incredibly over that people wanted him to win the belt. So what the fuck are we doing here? What are we doing here? And it goes back to what I said earlier. You're not creating stars. You're not connecting the dots on all your storylines. You're doing things as it comes and goes because this is the example of somebody who books a show with his favorites in mind. And as long as he gets them on the show, it works. And so the problem is when you have people who do get over, you start to now literally, I'm telling you guys this. I will be very honest. I don't trust AEW as a producer of content. As a company, I do not trust AEW. They have insulted my intelligence multiple times. We saw that with the referee spot with Bandito and Chris Jericho. We also saw it in the spot with Ricochet and Speedball getting to the triple threat match, with the double pin. The referees consistently are just dumb in AEW. AEW has stars who organically get over, and then when they do win the belt, they are completely meaningless. Daniel Garcia doesn't even get a pop anymore. There was a time where the fans absolutely loved him, but now they don't love him. So I've gotten to a point where I don't trust AEW to do what's right. And the biggest point of that the biggest point that I can make is you have these storylines that they start off good and then you eventually drop the ball. Brother, the Young Bucks literally walked out on AEW and walked away from AEW. We haven't seen them for months, and then they come back and attack Hangman, and they're aligned with the Death Riders. How am I supposed to be invested in this when you have not built that up for months? Oh, now I got to watch next week for you to tell me a story, which, by the way, this is the worst part. I have to wait until next week for you to tell me the reason why they've done that. And then, by the way, let's just be really clear. It's not going to go anywhere because they've constantly told me every single time, whatever we start, we end up stopping and we're not fully committed to it. They are not fully committed to anything. Tony Khan has never been fully committed to his product from day one. You can tell in his storytelling, he is not a committed booker. He has ideas in his head. Some ideas work out very well. Some ideas totally flop. And sometimes it works out in his favor. But when something is bad, as long as he keeps going with it, he thinks it's fine. And the reality is people are tired of it, and that's why I cannot trust AEW. There is no sense of me trusting AEW. I know damn well right now if WWE fucks up with storytelling and we're all vocal about it, WWE has shown us, hey, we will listen to you in some capacity. But WWE is going to be paying attention to the people who actually pay money to go to their events. AEW doesn't have a lot of people paying to go to their events. That is something that needs to be said.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better, brother.
Shout out to Brian McCaddy for the super chat. Dwayne Jackson says he dropped $5. He says, when does Moxley lose the AEW title? Double or Nothing or All In, All Out?
Hope All In, because it's definitely not at Double or Nothing.
If it doesn't happen at Double or Nothing, mark my words, I'll be very, very, very clear here. You're a fucking idiot. Like Tony Khan, you'll be dumb.
Yeah, I'm just gonna tell you, it's not. It's gonna happen at All In.
Go. You should have ended it 3 months ago, 4 months ago. Now you're going to make me wait another month. Oh, and then after that, you're going to make me wait until All In.
Because yes, Tony Khan went on a media scrum and he told you, oh, hey, yeah, no, I listen to fan feedback. No, you don't. That's like when Vince, Shane, and Stephanie and Triple H all walked out on TV in like 2018 and said, oh, we're going to make a change. And then absolutely nothing changed. In fact, they went into the worst year that they had ever had booking-wise. So it felt like that. WWE and AEW, I should say, right now is put themselves in a position to where they're not going to take the belt off of Mox. They're not going to.
No.
They're going to wait till All In. They're going to have it be some kind of grand moment because they want it to be a grand moment. The problem is that they've ruined that. They've ruined any type of potential of it being grand because every decision that can possibly happen, we just laid out here for you guys, right? We've laid out every single piece in every person that could potentially win that world title. And the problem with it is because of how bad this storyline has been, none of it will matter because this storyline will linger over AEW for months, maybe even years to come.
Yeah. Shout out to Dwayne Jackson for a super chat. And I know Boycott Activision is extremely thirsty for our attention. So I thought this was a cute little comment that we can address because we like to do things fairly. So he says, hey, Ango, can you tell me why Punk ignored Heyman for months and now they're having a Paul Heyman on a pole match for Mania? They dropped that story for 8 years. Why are they picking it back up? So I think this is a fascinating thing because if Boycott actually watched WWE, Boycott saw that CM Punk did a favor for Paul Heyman, correct? That's how they justified him going into War Games. Cool. It's a little seed that's planted. It's not a storyline, by the way. It's not a storyline. Okay, and then we saw the Royal Rumble, and we saw what happened with Seth, Roman, and Punk. Billy, just correct me if I'm wrong. This triple threat match was formed because of that moment in the Royal Rumble, correct? Correct. I just want to say that one more time. Yes?
Correct.
Thank you. Okay, now let's talk about it. Paul Heyman was just a favor. Paul Heyman being in Punk's corner was just a little favor that he owes Punk, right? Now you're starting the storyline. What they're doing, Boycott, is actually something interesting. It's called utilizing your history and things that have happened in your past and not insulting your intelligence. They're basically saying, hey, we're going to acknowledge the relationship of Punk and Heyman that they had several years ago. Punk was not in WWE when Heyman joined Roman Reigns. Holy shit, Punk came back. So they're going to openly acknowledge it, but that is not the reason for why this match is happening. So when you say Paul Heyman on a pole match, that sounds like you're pretty upset with the fact that WWE is logically telling a story, and you just can't wrap your head around it because you want Ango to be so mad about that, even though there's nothing to be mad about. It's actually really funny because the thing that I just praised about AEW was Hangman Page and Swerve. You're able to pick up from where you left off because of all those layers to the initial story. See, isn't it fucking crazy how that works, Billy?
Yeah, actually, it is kind of insane because, and then basing it off of an idea that, you just read on the internet talking about Paul Heyman on a pole. No, there's layers to this. He was owed a favor at Survivor Series for helping the Bloodline, and then they create a match at the Royal Rumble that makes a lot of sense. And then they do this match that Paul Heyman just so happens to be a part of, and they go back and they revisit the favor, and then they tell you, hey, we're going to utilize this favor right now because it may have something to do with this specific storyline. It is very, very simple, logical storytelling. I'm sorry. What do you guys think is going on? What do you think wrestling is? It is based off storytelling. It has always been that, and it will never be anything else. Honestly, it could be a shitty storyline. It could be a good storyline. It has always been based around pro wrestling. Now, the problem with it is you guys try to create baseless logic that does not matter. Very simple.
Very baseless. And one thing I wanted to say, Billy, that's such a great point is that, if you look at AEW storytelling and we talk about how good their matches are, let's just call it for what it is. If you want it to be a wrestling product, like they all say they do, right? It's a wrestling product. Great. So let's get rid of the Death Riders thing because everything else could be back to regular pro wrestling. Your tournament, your Owen Cup tournament, is all about where the best wrestle, right? So let's form your main event based off of 2 great wrestlers. Oh, and then what's really cool, by the way, ready for this? When Will Ospreay wins the Owen Cup, for example, and Will Ospreay were to go into the main event, and if he were to wrestle Kenny Omega or Okada at All In, if the Death Riders thing didn't exist, oh my God, you have a really good storyline based on history.
There's so much history.
And you could utilize those elements to tell the story of 2 guys who are wrestling to be the very best. But the problem is,
there's no way.
No, I know there is a way, but the problem is it's called an identity crisis. AEW is like that 50-year-old middle-aged man that keeps buying fucking expensive-ass cars. That's exactly what this is. Literally, people don't want to admit it, but AEW is literally an older man with a midlife crisis. They go and spend all their money on all the talent that they want, and this is where the best wrestle, and we keep signing free agencies. And then when it comes to making the actual decisions that matter, well, when you're in a midlife crisis, you can't actually make good decisions. So this is what happens when you're AEW. And the reality is people are so mad to hear Ango say this. But if you're going to be so inclined to sign the Will Ospreays and the Okadas of the world, then what the fuck are we doing with Okada being Continental Champion and doing face-off with Kenny Omega every few months? Put that man to work. There's a reason why he cooled down. If this is where the best wrestle, and this is a company that's purely based on the wrestling, Will Ospreay does these interviews and says we're 90% wrestling and 10% talk. Well, if that's the case, why is the biggest storyline in your company, the one that everybody thinks is a failure, why is that the one where it's pretty much all about the talking and not about the wrestling? Because I'm sorry to say this, but Jon Moxley, by the way, nobody ever talks about this, but Jon Moxley is wrestling a lot slower of a pace in the main event after a 5-hour-long pay-per-view. It's very late. People are tired. This is supposed to be the exciting match? No, but I sure as hell can guarantee if you gave me Kenny Omega and Okada in the main event, people would be off their ass, on their feet watching it. Tony Khan and the AEW are having a midlife crisis. They have identity issues. They don't know what they're figuring out. They don't know how to figure it out. They don't know how to connect all the dots in their life right now. So the solution to that is, well, keep buying more talent. Keep buying more talent. And then I get ridiculed when I say, Josh Alexander probably should have gone to WWE instead, right? Speedball should have gone to NXT instead. Megan Bayne should have gone to WWE instead. We haven't even touched on Megan Bayne, and that's where the sparks start flying.
Yeah, I mean, we're just right now in such a shitty situation, and I don't know. People live in a delusion, la la land. It's just the truth. People refuse to criticize things that they love. And here's the thing. If you don't criticize the things you love, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, guys, but maybe you don't love it as much as you say you do.
You predicted Megan Bayne to lose and said Tony Storm should win.
I did.
What did you think?
Okay, so let's talk about that for a moment. Here's the thing. As much as I think Megan Bayne deserved a win here, right? I never want to discredit Megan Bayne in this position. If she would have won, I don't think I would have been angry at all, right? My thing about it is Tony is going to need a match at Double or Nothing. She has absolutely nothing. And with AEW's track record right now and where things stand, they're going to have a really hard time trying to pivot that back, correct? And try to pivot to something new, because it's either they're going to get it really right or they're going to get it really, really wrong. So why even take that chance? So my thought process was always that, okay, if you have Megan Bayne lose, she can lose here to potentially win at Double or Nothing and maybe give her a grand match at All In. Have Tony Storm have a match at All In. I don't know. But, I mean, I always have based it around the fact that they do want Tony Storm to be the women's champion.
Yeah.
By All In.
Yeah. It goes back to what I was saying. AEW can't create stars. They don't know how to strike when the iron is hot. Megan Bayne has destroyed the women's division since appearing on TV in recent months. She goes and destroys everybody. She even gets a pinfall over Tony Storm, and then she loses through a roll-up pin at the pay-per-view. Now, I don't know if you guys are aware, but the fans obviously want something where, people are capitalized on, and this is the same thing that happened to Wardlow, and this is the same thing that happens to many others in AEW. People get organically over, people start making a big splash, and then a company where the wins and losses matter, she loses. And so it really doesn't matter what you do with Megan Bayne after this. We can argue all day back and forth, but the truth is they really screwed up because She came in dominant and she lost in such a shitty ass way. You could have actually had Megan Bayne win. They have now essentially created their top woman in the women's division. And in addition to that, Toni Storm is such a great storyteller. As I've said before, she's one of the very few wrestlers in the wrestling industry next to Roman Reigns, John Cena, and The Rock, and Cody Rhodes. They don't really need the championship belt to be special. And Toni Storm is so good of a storyteller that she didn't need the belt. So this is me remembering that all the times where AEW has never capitalized on actually creating a new star, not striking when the iron is hot.
The problem with AEW is that they make it feel like the person who does have to, like, if you have the belt, that's the only way you are considered special.
And we all know with Daniel Garcia winning the TNT championship and the trios belts hardly being defended.
That's not the case.
Exactly.
Yes. But the problem is that it flip-flops because some people with the belt are special. Some people without the belt are... I wouldn't even say some people without the belt because at this point it just feels like people without the belt. The only exemption I would give to that, maybe two, would be Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay.
Yep.
You know, that without the belt feels somewhat special. But like obviously I'm supposed to think that Jon Moxley is the guy at all times, right?
Yep.
Or I'm supposed to think that again, Toni Storm is now very, very special. Which is okay because I do agree with your statement of that she doesn't necessarily need the belt to feel special. The problem is AEW just puts a lot of focus on them and they don't do a good job telling stories without the belt.
Yeah. I want to give a shout out to my boy Rome from CST, Combat Sports Today. He just put out an excellent tweet and I really want to read this. There was a tweet that he responded to. The tweet was, "The Death Riders ran the Elite out of the company. It doesn't make sense." And he just put a phenomenal tweet. I don't know how I'm so stupid to not have thought of this, but holy shit, it's so true. He put executive VPs playing second fiddle to the Death Riders is hilarious. By the way, it's been part of their gimmick that they are executive VPs. So not only are they actually executive vice presidents, but it's been part of their gimmick that they are the EVPs. So shout out to Rome for using his brain. Common sense isn't that common these days, but when we talk about the flaws in storytelling, look no further than that tweet. That was an excellent tweet, and it's very true.
That was a really good one. That was a really good one.
It's very true.
Yeah.
It's such a shame, Billy, because I really did enjoy Dynasty for the most part.
Yeah, it was a glorified Dynamite.
Yeah. I enjoyed the show for the most part. Like I said, there were some things they didn't have to do, but this is Tony Khan. Really what it comes down to. Forget about storytelling. Forget about all this shit. The one thing that's not being talked about enough. This is the result of Tony Khan trying to do too much when he doesn't have to. And the reason why a lot of things don't feel special is when you load up a card with 10, 12 matches, whatever. This is the result of that. And it's a structural issue with AEW. And I'm tired of, honestly, it's crazy. I'm tired of talking about the same shit for 6 years, but that's kind of just how it is at this point, covering AEW.
Well, just one last thing to say on a behalf of somebody who doesn't really watch much pro wrestling. My girlfriend watched it with me last night.
Yeah.
And she actually fell asleep. And now I want to preface that during WWE pay-per-views, she normally watches them all the way through. She enjoys them. Very, very simple. And what she said to me before we came up and went to bed after the show, she followed with saying, "I enjoyed the show for what it was and what I seen. The problem is that they took too long to get to things." So I want people to think about that for a moment. Understand that there is a possible realm that you can get a new audience of people, and AEW hasn't seemed to capitalize on that. You know, my girlfriend is a very big WWE fan now. She actually scrolls on TikTok and sees the videos quite often. But with AEW, she can't get behind it because it's too long and it's not doing exactly that for her. So, this is the problem, not thinking about the casual audience that could potentially watch your show, because she watches WWE without me now, just so everybody knows.
It's the one art that AEW doesn't do. But I have said this before, and it sucks that this is the truth, because I know a lot of fans will disagree, and that's fine. And I get it. When you're a paying customer, $50, I get it. But WWE does spend a lot of time on their pay-per-views doing some sort of tape thing where, maybe it's an interview or maybe it's a video package explaining to you how we got here, how we got to this particular match. And WWE does this because if you're scrolling on Peacock and you click WWE and you see this match for the first time, you don't really understand why it's happening. And I wish AEW actually did this, not because of anything else other than pacing. You're rushing things. The more that you're throwing at the wall, the more people are dealing with. It's also to the point where the truth is, people are watching. They're like, all right, what's happening? How do we get here? And by the way, we'll see what happens when they go on Max for the pay-per-views. But, dude, you're asking people for $50. You're just throwing a lot of matches on there. Let some shit breathe.
Yeah. Let it breathe, man.
It's tiresome.
That's what she said. She was like, it was just match after match after match. You know, some people do enjoy the entertainment side of this. I just want to put that out there. It's okay to enjoy the wrestling side, but there is a group of people that do enjoy the just nature of entertainment. And to all those weirdos that love to sit up and say, oh, and try to gatekeep whatever fucking pro wrestling is, grow up, man. Grow up. Let everybody enjoy something.
Yeah.
Let everybody enjoy it. So to all you weirdos out there that are trying to gatekeep this shit, man, stop. A lot of us are grown adults, right? You know, especially the ones in the hardcore space. We're grown adults. So there is a world where both things can exist at once.
You know, I like to compare this to UFC. Where UFC, so like WWE has the PLEs on Peacock, you spend what, $7.99 a month, but then you get all these movies and all these shows and everything. UFC, you pay $80 for a pay-per-view, and if the pay-per-view fucking sucks, you're out $80. AEW has the same thing. So there's going to be a little bit tougher criticism for a company charging you money for a pay-per-view.
$50.
Yes, you're asking for $50. You're asking for $50 and
I need top notch.
You got to
the same with UFC.
You got to give me the best. And by the way, you're giving me certain matches, like you're giving me Owen Cup tournament. You know, it's like the Mercedes and the Julia match, and you know, I love Julia. I think she's got an awesome package and an awesome you know, she's packaged correctly with the music and the trons and the graphics and the camera angles and stuff. She's a little bit green in the ring, but I don't mind because I feel like her as a character is relatively awesome. But that could have been on Collision, and you know, it wasn't like we got some massive moment with Athena and her, you know, or something. Like it was just a standard match. Same thing with Mark Briscoe, and of course, you know, with Kyle Fletcher. So to me, I think it just sucks sometimes when you're watching this shit and you're like, okay, well, you could have done without that. You could have done without that. You got the ROH World Championship on a pay-per-view, which I don't really mind, but it's like, brother, you got ROH as a show. Shouldn't you be building up that show? Why is it taking up, you know, from this? I don't know. To me, it's just it's a big fucking mess. AEW will always be a big mess. I've been saying it since day one. They've been giving me some good stuff for the past month, and I always say, I'm like, hey, I'm actually pretty excited for Dynasty, and then it's crazy because you get to the end and you're like, well, that was a fucking waste of time. So this company is the most unpredictable company. Sometimes you get really good stuff, sometimes you get really bad stuff. Hey, when WWE was at its worst, they were always fucking bad. When TNA was at its worst, they were always fucking bad. Now it's like AEW is reaching that point to like, I can't fucking trust you, bro. You were asking me for $50 for a pay-per-view. Go fuck yourselves.
So I think the answer, you know, we actually said it in the title. Was it really that bad? I think it comes full circle back to, we'll leave that up to you guys if you guys thought it was really that bad. Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's up to you, man. But it's very clear. I mean, the backlash that they have received, I do believe is justified. I do believe it really is justified. And, you know, I don't know.
I'm in agreement.
Me and Billy are kind of like tired of talking about the same old issues all the fucking time. And it's crazy.
You feel like you're in circles.
That's all it is, bro. And honestly, like the only thing I will say before we go is, it's starting to agitate me. Fucking thank you for that, Jem, bro. That was a great audio clip. I will love you forever.
Yeah. So if people want to go ahead and use my meme and spread my face around, feel free.
There you go. It's right there.
And Ango, just I want you to know something as we do this show.
Yeah.
You never know when it's coming, brother.
I love it, man.
You never know when it's coming.
I love it. Guys, we're almost at 2 hours. Shout out to Billy. Shout out to you guys in the chat just going hard, bro. What a fucking awesome stream. We'll be back tomorrow. Billy, are you doing a watch along tonight for Raw?
I am doing a watch along tonight, so you guys can come tune in.
Make sure you guys check it out. Billy's killing it with these watch-alongs, man. I stopped in there on Friday, and like I said, it was funny because Billy was talking. He's like talking shit, but then he's telling everybody it's a work. It was the funniest thing.
Sed just popped up in the chat. He said Billy's still the tribal chief. So fun fact, I made Ango acknowledge me on Friday.
Oh yeah, did you like that? I was like, I'll give you $1 million raise.
Yeah, and still haven't gotten paid. Ain't that some shit? Like I said, you still got one coming. You got your receipt coming.
Yeah. It was great though. Shout out to Billy for being here, and shout out to everybody. Shout out to the trolls. Shout out to the people that show love. Shout out to the people that understand exactly what is happening, because you're never gonna see a more authentic live wrestling talk show than this one. It's just the way it is. And go back 6 years, man. 6 years of AEW being around, and I've been telling it straight like it is forever. And I think sometimes the truth fucking hurts, but it's okay. Don't be soft. Don't be better. Oh, I love this. Don't be better, just get better. And dude, it is what it is. We'll see you guys tomorrow live, 12 p.m. And make sure you guys are subscribed to Billy at Billy TKO. Shout out to Billy for coming back. And
you're starting to agitate me.
Yeah, I love it. Good stuff, man. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Thank you, everybody. Peace.